Okay, so welcome back to another video on liquidity. So what we're going to be talking about today is financial markets. So buying and selling shares, in this case, stocks and shares. A really important aspect of our game design has been to avoid making this anything like a sort of simple stock market simulator. There are plenty of games that exist like that, and that's not what we're really going for. We don't really imagine many people will have fun buying and selling pretend shares as you would in Robinhood. The way that shares enter the game in liquidity is in a much more sort of subtle and deep way. Essentially, as a bank, you're a market maker, which means you're buying and selling shares, but the idea is to profit on the transactions generally rather than profit off positions. That's not to say, of course, you can't buy stocks and hold them to hopefully make money as they go up, or short them and make money as they go down. Of course, that you can do that, and there'll be mechanics such as insider trading and stuff to be able to make profit. But fundamentally, within the bank, the objective is to set up a bank which makes money from transaction costs, and that comes with some challenges which are very different to just buying a call option on your favorite stock. So let's have a look at this. There's quite a lot to this aspect of the game. So you see, if you start off the game, the market data window and the dealing terminal are both locked. So I'm just going to go into the debug window and unlock those for us now. So it's share dealing and not share dealing products. We'll deal with that in a different video. The market data terminal. Okay, so now those two are unlocked. If you go to the qualifications tree, you'll see those here. We've got share dealing down here and the market data terminal, which is something you would unlock after that. These prerequisites are sort of temporary. I don't think we'll necessarily require 2 million in equity for this to be met, but yeah, we just have to tune this as we develop the game. Anyway, so there's quite a lot to this, so I'll talk through it in as much detail as possible. So what we're going to be talking about today is the actual mechanics of buying and selling shares, primarily. In another video, we'll talk about how you set up financial products which involve shares. So just a quick spoiler, you can go to a new product and you'll see the share dealing products and index tracker products, which are locked to us at the moment, but they are coded, they're part of the game. So on the next video, I'll run through how those work. But before we can sell those products, we need to actually be able to buy and sell shares. So the idea here is for this to be realistic, circa 1995. So back then you wouldn't have Robinhood or anything, and if you're an investment bank today, you wouldn't have Robinhood. There's sort of several different ways in which you interact with the market. We'll start with this one, which is a little bit out of order. This is the market data viewer. So this wouldn't be the first thing you'd have unlocked, actually. So you'd have to initially carry out your trading without this information, which makes it quite challenging. But this is meant to look a little bit like a Bloomberg terminal. So it's a simplified version, of course, and we'll add to it as we develop the game. But see, we have our different stocks here. So we're under equity, which is just another name for stocks. And we have a sort of a range of different fake companies. As I mentioned in previous videos, there are no real companies, but we will expand this list in the future. And then there'll be things such as bonds, commodities in the future as well. And we also have indices. So indices are things sort of analogous to the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, basically a weighted average of all the different shares. And you can trade these as well. So let's click on one. So let's click on Apex Technologies. So this is meant to be a little bit like, your Google or something like this. It's a technology company. Obviously, it's founded in the 1970s, unlike Google, but you get the idea. So this is the sort of information you get on here. You get your price charts, your different financials, the information about the dividends, the earnings, and then there's some analyst coverage. So predictions on the market. And if you click on it, you can actually you can get a larger chart as well. And this works. This is all real data. So if you speed the game up, it will go quicker. And if you save and load, this data is all preserved. So that's quite an important feature of this game, obviously, that the data is real, and across all of these indices, all of these equities, that is the case. So you have this sort of what we call a spark line here. If you progress time, the performance of the different shares is available here. So you notice there's some correlation here, and again, that is part of the code. These are not just randomly moving stocks. There are prices which are correlated. So if you look at Apex, that should look similar to a different semiconductor company. Not exactly the same, but similar in some ways. And you'll see the you also get sort of market events. So if you have economic events, so you have consumer price index, unemployment, and things like this that occur, these can move the market quite a lot as well. So the underlying mechanics of the financial markets is quite rich already. That's programmed in. It hasn't been exploited yet in terms of the way we interact with the game, but the groundwork has been laid so that some nice sort of interesting emergent phenomena come from this as we develop the game. One of the hardest things about developing a game like this is to make it impossible to cheat to make money. So for example, if you save the game one time forwards and then see that stock's gone up, you want to make sure that it's impossible for that to be profited on by going back and seeing the same progression. So there are various options there for doing that. And similarly, you could do, for example, buy lots of have a massive position in a stock, one time forwards, and then if it doesn't go your way, just reload the game. So the odds are this is going to have to be an Iron Man game because of that. Just having a stock market in the game just basically necessitates that. But it sort of is part of the theme of the game anyway. Okay, so this is basically where we get our information, right? So we get information of different stocks. Not really much going on here. We can't trade off here, and that's as it is in the real world. If we want to trade, we've got to load up our dealing terminal. And this is designed to be something like you'd see on a trading floor. So even today, these things will still exist. They're based off a Reuters dealing terminal. And certainly in the 1990s, this is the way that trading took place. So the idea with stocks is that on exchange, so we can talk about the differences between on exchange and over-the-counter trading in the future. But we'll just run through the basics here. And this is one of these things which you would expect you as a player to spend a bit of time learning as you progress through the game. And the game would obviously guide you and help you learn about this. So basically it's all command line. So you can type stuff in here, press enter, and it will say unknown command. The first thing you can do is type in help, and it'll give you some commands. You can also do question mark, it will do the same. And then you can do stuff such as type in help, say quote, and it will tell you how to use that particular command. So let's say start with Apex here at the top. These are just some of the tickers that we've got selected or shown in our dealing terminal. But let's do quote Apex, and it will tell you the current prices. So this is what we call an order book. It tells you the prices we could buy and sell shares in Apex for. So on the right hand side here is the offer, or the ask, sometimes called. So if we want to buy some Apex, the lowest ask, which is the price we would be paying, we'd be paying the lowest possible price for it, is 332.3. It's just changed. And there's just 1.3 thousand shares on the ask. So if we want to buy more than that, then we'd also have to start buying shares at a higher price, and we continue to eat up the order book if we buy. So that's the way it works in the real world. You'll have prices which are quite close together in the center, but if you want large volume, you're going to have to start paying a higher and higher price. And there's obviously a difference between the bid and the offer. That's the spread. So if you were to buy and immediately sell, you'd make a loss. Okay, so that's an example of the order book. So how do you actually trade? So let's trade on something different. And I think it'd be a good idea just to bring up our market data here just so we can watch it in real time. So let's select a stock which isn't too expensive, but isn't too cheap. Let's go with First Federal Bank Corp. Okay, so let's first of all get a quote for them. So you can either do quote or you can just click Q and then you type in the ticker number, ticker code. First Federal Bank Corp. So we have the order book here. The price is 6.59 at 6.62, the difference between the bid and the offer. So if we want to buy, we'd have to pay this price, 6.62, and if we want to sell, it'd be 6.59. So let's buy some. So the way you do that, let's actually first of all just do our normal help command. So do help and then do help order. It will tell us how to use it. So it's quite a complicated set of options here. There's an example of how you'd carry out a buy order. If you want to do a limit order, that means put an order into the order book. But let's for now just do a simple buy order and buy some of these shares. So let's say order buy, and if it is, excuse me, order FSTB buy, and let's buy 1,000 shares. And if you do it as this, it will just do it at the best price. And you see we've been filled here. So this is the result. So we've just bought 1,000 shares of FSTB. We'll come back to the other orders in a little bit, but let's see how this trade is going for us. So there are a few ways to see the value of this. If we go back to our help, there's an option here, inventory, which shows our current positions. And this is what we'd have to use when we first get access to trading, because we won't have access to, well, we have a way of evaluating the shares, but we don't have the market data viewer to start with. So anyway, let's do inventory, and it'll show us the positions we have. So we've got 1,000 shares of FSTB. We're long because we bought them, and the current market value is 6.60. So we entered at 6.66, and the current value is 6.6. So if you do quote FSTB, you'll see the mid, which is the average between the buy and the sell price, is about 6.6. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. We also have our internal risk management system. So we talked about this briefly when we talked about the regulatory risk, but this window also shows us our equity positions as a delta. So it's shown as these sort of bars. So we see FSTB, we have a delta of 6.6. So why is it this? Well, we bought 1,000 shares at a value, and the current market value is $6.6 a share. So the total value of these shares is 6.6, and that's how we define these deltas. So let's sell some shares as an alternative. So let's go back to our market terminal, and let's have a look at what other shares we can have with a similar value. So this one was about $6. Should we do this one, PTRL? So let's get a quote on that. Quote PTRL. And this is the order book. So let's try and get an offsetting position, which is approximately the same as this. So we have a sort of a spread on. So we're long FSTB and we're short PTRL. So because the share price is about twice what it was for the other share, we'll sell just 500 in this case. So order PTRL, sell 500. And there we go, we've been filled, and we see our deltas appeared here. So this is a long short spread. We have no opinion on which direction these shares are going to go. So in general, it's probably not going to make us money, but this is just demonstrating the mechanics of this. So if we close these windows for just a little bit and take a look at our equity, previously this moved as a relatively constant line. Now, if we start to move things speed forward, you'll see it's going to start to fluctuate quite a lot, and that's because it's the value of our total equity is changing based upon stock market value. So it's not changing very much because we have a spread on. We have profit of one set of shares are likely going to balance out the others because the markets are correlated. But sometimes that can be a useful thing to do. So let's clear out these positions and go back to flat. So let's load up our deltas first of all. I think that's the best thing to do. And then let's load up our dealing terminal. The delta, the risk management window, we're always going to have access to, so you don't have to unlock that for a qualification. It's just the Bloomberg style market data which we do have to unlock. Okay, so a few different ways in which we could work out exactly what we have. We could look at these deltas and we could work out roughly how much stock we have of each of these. We could click on these bars and that brings up the order book, which is quite handy, but it doesn't, and it tells us down here what our position is. So we're long 1,000 and the price has gone down slightly, so we're going to make a loss on this trade, but that's okay. Hopefully it's been offset by our other position. So let's get out of this trade. So as before, we can either do help order, it'll remind us of the syntax we have to use for these sort of orders. But let's just do that. So order FSTB sell 1,000. And there we go. We got out of that position. And then on the other one, let's buy back those shares as well. So order PTRL buy 500. And now you'll see our delta's gone. We've got no more risk. And our equity, if we want times forwards now, will just stay flat. So let's do that. It should just be a flat line as a function. We move time forwards there. So we made a loss by that. Part of that is because the market moved against us, but part of that is because we crossed the bid offer spread. As I say, there's a difference between the buy and the sell price, which means that you're going to have to there's a transaction cost essentially. Okay, now let's put in an order. So let's do an alternative way of trading. So if we go back to our help order, we'll see we had a few different examples here. We had the simple one here, order apex buy 1,000, which is what we did. But we could also put a limit order, which means that we will place for example, in this case, we'll place an offer at 42.50, and that means that we'll wait for someone to come and take those shares from us. So let's do that, and let's use Apex. So Apex is currently trading at 325.01. Let's put in a bid. So a bid is a order to buy, and let's buy 10 shares, and we'll do limits. Let's put it 325 or 324.5. I don't know where the bid is, so we can actually just get a quote of Apex to see what the actual bid is. So the bid is, before we put the order on, was 324.26. So ours is slightly above it. So we go straight to the top of the order book. That's what the asterisk there means. So now we are the bid, meaning that if anyone wants to sell shares, they can do so to us at that price. So let's run time forward and see if we get filled. So basically, for us to get filled, we'd want the price to go down slightly, because that would mean there's an attractive price to sell to us. So yeah, we've been filled, I think. So let's look at our inventory. No, we've not. I think we've been consumed by another bid, unfortunately. So let's try again, and let's put in another order. So you can use the up and down arrows to run through different commands, which can be quite helpful. Yeah, so the problem with our bid is we put in 324.5, but that's now come off the bottom of the order book because the price has gone up. So it is still there. It's just it's not showing these top 5 prices. Anyway, so let's put in another order, and this time we'll put one in at 328. So you'll see here the current bid is 326.95 and the current offer is 328.25. So the mid, i.e. the average between them, is 327.6 up here. And we're going to put in a higher bid, which is quite close to the offer, so hopefully will get filled. And in this case, let's put an offer for 100. So there you go, we're in. And we have 100 shares, and hopefully will get filled now. And there you go, we've been filled at 100. So that's because the market sort of went down slightly, and we actually see our other bid, our bid lower down is now visible here. So if we go to inventory, we see there's our position again, and we've made a loss on this. So we're long, we want the market to go up. Let's just run time forwards and see what happens, see if we make or lose money. If we bring up the market data terminal, we can watch Apex. So we are long, we want the price to go up. It's starting to go up, which is good. So we're seeing our value go up. So yeah, you can gamble on the stock market, but in general, because of transaction costs, you're likely to lose money unless you have a particular reason for thinking a stock's going up or down. So that's the basic mechanics of it. There's a lot more to it. I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it because there's a lot to it here, but that's the general gist of it. So let's just close out our position. So go to INV. We're long 110 because our other bid's been filled. So let's just sell order Apex, sell 110, and now we're clear. So we've locked in a profit of $902 today. Okay, so we'll call it a day there, and next we'll come back to how this fits into running a bank and how we buy and sell shares from customers.